Welcome everyone to this webinar, Essential Market Research Tools through the Portland Public Library. This webinar is being sponsored by the Maine Small Business Development Center and the Portland Public Library. And my name is Tina Oddleifson, and I am a small business advisor with the SBDC. I sit in the Portland campus of USM, and I cover Cumberland County and parts of York County, and sometimes work with advisors throughout the state. And that is my contact information on the screen. And I am here with Myles Robert, and Myles is the business and government librarian with the Portland Public Library. And together, we're going to be telling you about some fantastic resources at the library to do your market research. Just a few details for you. This webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you do not want to be seen, you might want to turn off your camera. You will be sent the slides from this presentation in a follow-up email by the end of the week. So all of our contact information will be there. You don't need to write it down. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will do my best to bring them up, but we also have some time at the end that we can also talk about your questions then. So just a quick information about both of our organizations. If you're not familiar, the Maine SBDC is an organization that exists to support the small business ecosystem in the state of Maine. And every state in the country has an SBDC, and this program has been in existence for over 40 years. Here in Maine, we have about 12 advisors that work throughout the state, and our kind of the core of what we do is one-on-one business advising. And we do that for aspiring business owners and for experienced business owners, whatever the stage of your business is in. And some of those topics that you see on the screen are what we tend to talk to people a lot about, but please feel free to sign up for advising through our website, and we're happy to talk to you about your particular business. We also offer all kinds of other educational resources, webinars like this, and a very robust YouTube channel that has tons of pre-recorded webinars. We have e-courses through our website, a blog series, a newsletter that is a great thing to sign up for, so we really encourage you to do that. And then most of you are probably familiar with the Portland Public Library, but if you're not, it's in Monument Square in Portland. It's open every day except for Sundays from 10 to 5. And for those of you who are in Cumberland, York, and then there's some parts of Oxford County, you get a free membership to the library. If you are not in those areas, you can still access these really terrific resources directly online and remotely through a $20 membership. And Myles will talk a little bit more about that. But to me, it's a great investment. If you're not in York or Cumberland County, it's still a great investment to get the information you need. So what I'm going to be doing is just starting off and talking generally about market research, why we do it, excuse me, and what we're trying to find out. And we're going to lay out an example business for you, and then Myles will take over and show you these resources, and then we will wrap up and kind of talk about what we learned. So why do we do this? I sometimes get business plans that come back to me from clients, and they throw some market research in there that they feel looks official and is going to satisfy a lender. But really, market research is an investigative journey that you go on before you start your business, before you expand your business. Because sometimes you think you have a great business idea, and your friends and family think it's a great business idea, but you have to make sure the market thinks it's a good business idea before you launch. So what the research is doing for you is testing those assumptions. It's identifying trends, opportunities, and threats within the industry that you're operating in or the larger economic conditions that you're operating in. So it's going to either confirm your business idea, improve your business idea for sure, or it can be the case that you decide not to do it at all because it's not the right time or place. So overall, the point of market research is to reduce your risks and make you more successful. So when we talk about market research, there's essentially two categories that we talk about. There's secondary market research and there's primary market research. And we're going to be focused today on secondary market research. typically you actually start with secondary research, and it's called secondary because it's research that's done by other sources. So, you know, also just to note that Google can actually be a really good place to begin your search by putting in search terms about competitors, about your industry, and you're going to come up with a lot of good information. But as Myles is going to show you, the information through the library is vetted information. It's information that they know is coming from a good source. So the sources that people, that this information comes from is trade organizations, news outlets, census data. Maine does several studies of its own every year in tourism. You can go to the Department of Transportation website and get traffic studies if you want to look at the amount of traffic that goes by a particular location. There's labor statistics for you to understand wages in your industry. There's industry and economic reports. Myles is going to show you information you can actually get on your competitors that goes a little bit deeper than you'd realize. There's consumer statistics and also online reviews, great source of information about your competitors. But I do want to touch on primary market research to just say that it's equally as important. Because the secondary market research, as we said, is coming from larger sources. You want to spend the time researching your individual marketplace and your individual situation that you're going to be in, and that's research that you do directly yourself. It is going to come from surveys, focus groups, interviews, conversations, product testing, and your own observations. And that's something I know people get a little intimidated by, but just to give you some ideas, we had an advisor actually that opened a business, and she did a survey that was actually sent out by her local economic development department. They did that survey for her. It can be focus groups of people that you pull together from people you know and beyond that represent your target market, and you're asking them a set of consistent questions. It can be one-on-one interviews with people who are in the same industry. If you have a product that you've created, like a salsa, you can take it into the marketplace and do free samples and ask people to give you feedback. It can be observations. So if you want to understand the foot traffic in a particular area, or how many customers go into your competitor's location, you can actually sit outside and count those things. I know we had a client who actually went to the airport and did a survey because people were sitting there and didn't have anything to do, and asked them about his product. So there's lots of creative ways you can do this, and it can be very, very enlightening. But we're going to be talking about secondary market research. And I also just want to touch on what exactly are we talking about here. So when you think about this research, you want to be researching your target customer. Who is the person most likely to want your product or service? And are there enough of them in your market area? You might think that opening a coffee shop is a great idea and everybody's going to want to come, but that just isn't the case. And there's a phrase that we use that when you market to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. And that's because you really need to focus on the most likely customers, so you need to understand who they are. Competitor research is critical because you want to understand who's providing a similar product or service in the marketplace, and how are you actually going to be different from them. And that can be things like your pricing, your location, the quality of your ingredients, the values that your business projects, the branding that your business projects. Another area that we look at are trends, like we mentioned before. What's happening in this business, and how is that going to affect what you offer? An example there is I worked with a business who was starting a construction company, and when they did their research, they realized that Maine has a very aging population, and there was a growing demand for people to retrofit their homes so they could stay in them longer. So they started to offer that as a service because they didn't realize how big that was. So these are the kinds of things you're looking for. You want to understand how your industry makes money. That in certain industries, there's certain types of revenue streams, and there's certain kinds of costs. And you want to understand what those key things are. And an example there is, say, the restaurant industry. you must keep your food and labor costs within a certain percentage of your sales, or else you will fail very quickly. And so you want to know those things. You want to know what the average profit margin is in your industry. So that's other information you can get. And then finally, there's legal and regulatory issues that you want to be aware of that impact your business, whether you need additional licenses or if there's been some major lawsuits in this industry that you should know about. So what we're doing is we are setting up a business that Myles and I came up with. It's a fake one, but this is a business called Downey's Seaweed Snacks. And it's a business started by Carla, and Carla is a 32-year-old, very health-conscious marketing professional who lives in Portland, but she grew up in Down East Maine in a lobstering family. And she started making this crunchy seaweed snack, and partly because she really knows that there's some great health benefits that come from seaweed, but she also is really driven by the fact that she sees the world changing around her, and she knows that seaweed is becoming a resource along the coast of Maine, and it's a sustainable resource. And she feels like this could be a revenue for her family and her community that offers some a new source that addresses kind of the climate change and the impact on the lobstering community. So she began making this using all the appropriate licenses that she needed to make her snack, and an advisor can help you understand those things. And she started selling it at farmers markets, and she got some great feedback. And now she's at that point where she's investigating how to actually grow and scale this business into something much bigger while she continues to work in her job. But she's kind of at that point where she wants to take it to the next level. So she has a lot of things that she needs to know. So quickly, just the things that Carla's going to want to be thinking about are who actually eats seaweed snacks. Clearly, it's not going to be everybody. So who is she going to market to? What's the size of this market? And what does this market care about when it comes to packaging or health benefits or the values of her business? She really needs to understand who her competitors are, not just in Maine, but beyond Maine. What are they offering? What are the flavors? What's the pricing? How big are they? And how is she going to fit into this market? She wants to understand what's happening in this market. Is there anything impacting seaweed production that she should know about? Other kinds of questions that Carla would need to be asking is, where would she sell this? What price would she sell this at? And how does she actually produce this at a much larger scale? So that's the framework for a lot of research questions that somebody would need to be asking, but we're not going to obviously be able to get into all of these. Some of these are going to be her primary market research, but I just want to set that stage. And Myles is going to take over from here and start showing you the resources using Carla as an example.
Thanks a lot, Tina. And let me just bring up full screen the PowerPoint here.
That's me.
Before I forget, I just want to point out that Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the library downtown is open till 6, just in case anybody works until 5. And don't forget our branches, Burbank and Riverton, have plenty of parking, which is a boon. So using Carla as our example, we're going to go through 3 databases today. And I'm going to start by showing you how we would navigate to get to these databases. Let me just bounce off my PowerPoint. So on our library website, any online resources that we have, business, books, entertainment, movies, education, under digital resources, you can go to research. But for business resources, I've gathered them all under one page. And I just want to give you a quick tour of what's on this page. Of course, we are right in tax season 2024. Any questions that you have about taxes, you can find on our webpage here. We do have the AARP coming in every week to help assist with filing taxes. this is the database collection. We're going to highlight two that are listed under here. This reference solutions is probably the most often used business resource that we have in our collection currently. The US Census data we won't go over. It's a very deep website. There's a lot of tutorials available on YouTube. I will point out while we're talking, and I didn't plan to discuss this today, that a lot of the census.gov information has been organized by the Greater Portland Council of Governments into data sets. And so you can go through here and you can see a lot of demographic information, and you can hone in on specific parts of Portland. And there'll be a lot of other information you can access through there. But like I said, census.gov is very deep, and it's not something we'll go over today. But if you have any questions, please contact us and we can make an appointment or answer some questions right there. We will be going over the Gale Power Search. And when we use the Gale Power Search, it's a little bit like Google, but it's organized that it's just gathering information that's relevant to business and entrepreneurs. And it's also vetted, so it's all extremely safe and current information. A lot of times it's the kind of information you couldn't get without paying a subscription. And when we use the Gale Power Search, it searches through this Gale Entrepreneurship Collection, this Gale Business Collection, as well as the Economics and Theory Collection. So the reason why I'm not going to go through all of these is because you're going to have access to all of those articles and data through this Gale Power Search. And we'll touch upon that in just a minute. And I just want to also point out that EconLit is a similar site with articles, as well as ProPublica. ProPublica EconLit is a little abstract and academic, but sometimes it's really useful, especially if you're doing something that's a newer kind of business that doesn't have a lot of history behind it and you're wanting to read about trends. Lastly, Gale legal forms I will touch upon at the end, but just know that we are a resource that you can get free forms of a broad range: how to set up a will, how to set up an LLC. But again, this is a database collection. And the business plan handbook, I put separate from the database collection, but it is technically a database. And we'll go over that in some detail in just about 10 minutes. Just two other things on this business highlight. Business organizations like the SBDC are listed on our website. And all of these are local organizations, and they are all, I think, nonprofit and very safe and very, very helpful. If you haven't set up a meeting with an SBDC counselor yet, I would definitely encourage that. It's such a valuable resource and at no cost to you. And lastly, business and economic news. I have both national and local resources listed here. And I do want folks to know that through our website, you can access any local or national newspaper, not any, but the most well-known ones. You can definitely access Portland Press Herald and Bangor Daily News and the New York Times full articles. If you run into any questions, please call our reference desk. I'll give the number right now, 871-1700, extension 725. But don't worry if you can't catch that number on the fly. I'll give my number at the end of my presentation. So thinking back about Carla, she wants to do research about her line of business. And for that, she's going to research trends. She's going to research her competition. She's going to research her potential customer base. And what I want to show first is the Gale Power Search, which again, a little bit like Google, but I'll show you a couple of ways that it's different. And as I pointed out already, it's different in that it's gathered information that's relevant to businesses and entrepreneurs. and it's also vetted. So all of this information is been deemed safe, truthful, trustworthy. And lots of times you'd have to pay a subscription to access some of this. So to get going, we would just enter a search term in the search box. And like Google, it would just give results to articles below. But one thing I want to point out before we actually try this database is it has a special tool called Topic Finder. It's a visual topic finder, and all the results of your search will be organized into subcategories and set up like this mosaic that you can see. Let me make that a little bigger. Oh, can't make that a little bigger. When we go into this, I'll make this image a little bigger. But as you can see, we started off with seaweed as the search term, and it breaks it down into subcategories. Here is edible seaweed, industry, food. We also have some market reports, and we also see that beyond food, they're talking about seaweed in terms of health products. And I don't know if,
Myles,
yep.
if you could make your screen in present mode, we could see that better.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I didn't realize it bounced off of that. Thanks, Tina.
Yeah.
I will make this even a little bigger when we're actually in the database later. Oh, there we go. But I just want you to see that these subcategories all pertain to seaweed. When we go in later, we'll try a couple of different search terms, and you'll see how useful this tool is to make your search really efficient and hone in on only those subjects that are really helpful to you and your business ideas. Next, we will go over the business plans handbook. And if some of you are making a business plan already, then you already know how it's sort of an outline covering all the different facets of your business and how to really get a sense of what your risks are likely that you'll be facing as you start your new business, and also what your hopes and projections are. We'll go into that in some detail in just a few minutes. And once we go through the Power Search and the Business Plan Handbook, we're going to dive deep into this database, which again, this is the most often used database in our business collection. And this will allow you to see public facts about your competition, annual revenue and expenditures. It will also show you some information about your customer base. And the customer information will be coming from a few different sources. Some of it's census.gov, so we'll be seeing some demographic information. But we'll also be seeing some aggregated customer behavior information that we're getting through loyalty cards and online surveys and some other tools that businesses use when they're researching their customers. And lastly, I'll just point you to Gale Legal Forms. Again, this is a broad range of forms that it offers: wills, other things that might pertain to an individual or a family, and then also business forms, limited liability corporation forms, contracts that you might make with vendors, a whole host of things, but tailored to Maine. So this is particularly useful because it won't lead you down a dark alley. It's going to give you forms that are relevant right here in the state of Maine.
And I'm just going to inject there, Myles, to say that I was really excited to find this resource because I often have clients asking about contracts or operating agreements for LLCs. And the great thing about this is they are relevant to Maine, and that's what makes them particularly powerful.
Definitely. Thanks for pointing that out, Tina.
So you stopped sharing, Myles.
Yep, I meant to do that.
Okay.
So we're going to go into the first database, which is the Power Search. And give me just a moment to share my screen. When you're talking, Tina, I didn't want to upstage you. As we go through these, feel free to ask questions through the chat. We're going to leave hopefully some time at the end where we can just talk freely together. But if while I'm presenting, you'd like to ask a question, please do put that in the chat. So again, I just want to show you how we'll navigate to these databases, going to our front page of our website. Again, you can go under digital resources and go to research to access anything online. But today we're going to go under topics, business, go into database collection, skip over reference solutions for now and go into Power Search. I do want to try a couple of search terms, so bear with me. The one that we had done before was simply seaweed. We're going to try seaweed snacks next. Actually, let me try Maine seaweed because I want you to just see that this is, even though it's international in scope, you can get local information in here as well. And I think it's okay that you see that sometimes it's a little slow depending on your connection. Don't lose heart, just hang with it. Here we are with Maine seaweed. Because it's a local subject, we're looking at just a little under 50 results. Interesting, though, that right away we're seeing that seaweed is a trending topic. Already in 2018, they were talking about seaweed harvest setting records. And if they're harvesting a lot of seaweed, chances are there's a lot of end use of this resource. And here they're also casting out to 2025 that there's going to be continued increase. In fact, they're calling for double of the harvest between now and 2025. And again, looking further down, they're talking about different natural aspects. But if we kick out of here and we go into a more broad subject, let's try seaweed snacks. Let me just hit these real quick. I don't want to lose my articles here. Seaweed snack brings up over 200 hits. Again, it's just like Google when we look at the first page of results. But I would encourage you to use the topic finder right away, and that will give us a handy mosaic. And here we have food industry as one of the subcategories, snack market, food trends. Still, there's going to be some articles talking about other uses, such as cosmetics and health products. Why don't we, and please feel free to interrupt me, Tina, but I think we're going to go into snack market, and we'll take a look at some of the articles listed here. Here we're looking at some research and market information. We're looking at some companies that are talking about their particular products and the way they've been marketing. And I've saved a couple of articles here. Let me get into a screen where we have set aside a couple of articles ahead of time that looked relevant to Carla's situation. This first one is talking about global seaweed and particularly about marketing. And they say that by 2031, it's expected to reach a staggering figure of 38. I don't even know how to read that figure, but that's an incredible amount. I think what's relevant in our quick look at this information is that this is a very promising market. And I think as we get deeper, we're going to see several threads that this resource, seaweed, is being manufactured in several different kinds of industries, healthcare, medical. And for Carla, we're going to be looking particularly at the food market. And I think, go ahead. Sorry, Tina.
I was going to mention that in that one article that we saw, it really identified Carla's market because it talked about this being a snack that was obviously very appealing to the vegan eaters. It actually provides some probiotic benefits, so people who might have digestive problems, and it appeals to people who have really strong environmental ethics. So right in this one article, we've been able to identify 3 very important groups that would want to eat seaweed snacks. So, you know, it's amazing that you can get this so quickly at the tip of your fingers. And I know that we also found a few other articles. There was a research done in Australia that really dived into even farther and found that women ate seaweed snacks more than men. And they tended to be in certain economic, you know, they were in certain, had certain level of income and had a certain educational level. So there's all kinds of information by reading these kind of broader articles that you can glean.
Yeah, in terms of what Carla's gathering at this point, a lot of it's information about her potential customers. And because this is such a new trend, a lot of this information is going to be in articles in Europe and Asia and Australia. And I think, as Tina's pointing out, a seaweed snack could be a customer looking for a snack. But I think what she's also pointing to is that Carla would do well to look at health markets. And when she's looking at highly educated women, that's a particular demographic that once you identify, you can start thinking about what's unique to their access points and how would you uniquely market and reach out to them versus the population at large. And already alluding to some of the articles that we've talked about, there's an article here that goes into some discussion about particular ways that they're reaching young adults. And again, a lot of it is out of health concerns. And so when we're looking through these articles, one thing that seemed relevant was perhaps actually trying some of these products that are available and looking at the broad range of seasoning, because for Carla, she's already got a product that she's been selling at the farmer's market. But this Biggie Go seaweed snack comes in a variety of flavors, including hot chili, barbecue, and just salt. And they've also gotten awards for their broad range of products. And because of their appeal, they've experienced over a 50% uptick in just their first year in business. All of this information is extremely encouraging to Carla, but it's particularly looking at the details of range of product, the variety of customers demographically, and factors that I guess you would call demographic again, but a little more refined into personality and spending habits. Go ahead, Tina, sorry.
I was going to say we refer to that as psychographics, and that's really important. It refers to values and and just kind of way of life, and certain kinds of branding appeals to certain kinds of people. So it's important to understand the psychographics. Not you start with demographic data, but then you want to go deeper and understand what's important to people.
And that's the kind of data that we won't be discussing at length today. But if you're interested in that, talk to your mentor or call the library, because we do have some resources at hand. And we're going to be looking to make those more extensive in the coming year. And just to pause a little bit more in the scenario of Carla, this article is describing where there was some interesting research being done in the UK, and
oh, I think this was the one, Myles, that it was a story about a couple who started a seaweed snack, and they started it because they were actually researchers studying marine biology, and they were working on a seaweed farm, and they wanted to expand the market. And this was kind of exactly what Carla is doing. And, you know, there may be an opportunity for her to contact this business because they're not going to be a direct competitor in the United States right now, and maybe she can set up an interview with them and find out how they did this, because they were biology students.
And I love that idea of reaching out to a similar business. I often hear mentors say, feel free to reach out to your competition, even locally, to talk. They often feel lonely and don't have people that understand what they're going through. But if you're nervous talking to competition, then definitely look beyond into like New Hampshire, Massachusetts, if you're a Maine-based company, or even reach out way beyond if you really don't want to talk to somebody that you feel you might be stepping on the toes of. So again, where we're getting access to these articles is under this this Gale Power search. And again, I would encourage you to take a look at this topic finder and try different search terms to see what gets you the information that seems most relevant to you. And I want to move on to our next database because it's already well past 10:30. The next database that we're going to be going over is called the Business Plan Handbook. And again, I made this as a standalone out here because it's just very extensive. It's over 1,000 business plans. These are all businesses that really exist. Like Law and Order, their names and the details have been changed. But there is a broad range of businesses here. Lots of them you'll recognize, inns and retail clothing and restaurants, but they get pretty creative. And there's an axe throwing club. There's an escape room franchise that goes into detail about the kinds of insurance that they've had to purchase. And so I would encourage you to really just take a moment and just see if some of these are creative and fun to look at. But for Carla, who's starting a snack company, I guarantee there's not going to be a seaweed snack listed because it's just such a new kind of idea. But I think that we can find some similar businesses, and from their business plans, we can get a sense of some of the risks that Carla will be looking at as she scales up. And she can start to get a sense of what her budget might be looking like once she does scale up from selling at a farmer's market to making this something that's going to be more broadly distributed. Now, I had to develop a way to get access points to this collection. So it's a little clunky, but I want you to use your control key along with your F key to bring up a search box. For Apple users, this might be a little different. If you run into problems, please contact me at the library and we can quickly get you going. But for now, I'm going to put in specialty food. And I'm going to go into this one. And I believe that this is going to be very similar. This is a tofu company, and they sell a snack called tofu jerky. So not only are they selling tofu in a more general way, but they're also selling a snack. So in a few different ways, this is going to pertain to Carla's business of selling seaweed snacks. These are going to be food products that are nutritious, but they also have a snack appeal. And I just want to not spend a ton of time here, but I want to just give you a sense of the format of these business plans. And if you're already working with a mentor, you're probably going to recognize that these follow pretty close to what most folks use in a template. Here we are with a general description that includes a mission statement, facts about the industry that this person is involved with, which is tofu. Tina, please feel free to add to what I'm saying here.
I liked this plan because this one has this 18-month plan where they literally are walking you through what they need to do to scale this up. And I thought that was really helpful, to look at what their goals were on a monthly basis to get them from farmers market up to a much bigger product and distribution. And so I thought that was just really helpful to see. And then the rest of these, it's typical information that you're gonna need to have on for your business plan, but it just is just provides some additional knowledge, some additional facts to help you think about yours. And at the SBDC and SCORE and the Women's Business Center, we all work with templates for business plans, and we can, walk you through the ones that we use. But I would really encourage you to take a look at these. As Myles said, there's over 1,000 plans in this database, and it's a great way just to kind of get familiar with business planning and possibly your industry as well.
And this information for somebody who's new might look a little dense, but it's the kind of thing that once you start reading it, it's actually quite clear and laid out in a good way. And I've had folks tell me that they've actually copy and pasted things that they found in these business plan handbooks and inserted it in their own business plan. Because we are running a little short on time, I want to go right into reference solutions. This is a very deep database, and we won't be able to go into it as deeply as I would like to. What we're really going to do is just start to show you how to get going on your research and how to download a report when you've found some facts that you would like to save. First, I'm going to click the terms and conditions that I agree. Here, I'm going to type in my library card, barcode number, leaving no space in the middle. It's just one long number. And if you've noticed, this is the first time that I'm plugging in my library card to get access to a database. The other ones, you can simply get access by allowing your computer to know where you're located. And if you're within the state of Maine, you'll have access to the Gale Power Search and the Business Plans Handbook. Reason that is those subscriptions are paid for by the Maine State Library. That's a consortium that belongs to all the libraries, all the communities in Maine. So simply by being a Maine resident, or even if you're in Maine as a visitor, you can access all the databases that are subscribed to by the State of Maine Library in Augusta. But reference solutions, a little bit costly, so we pay our own local subscription. You can access a lot of information here. At the reference desk, we're often using it as a telephone book. It has individuals' numbers. A lot of people who are cell phone users aren't listed in here, but some are. And it also has, as like a yellow book, all of the businesses in the US and also Canada. I do find that there's some businesses not listed in here, but it's very extensive. It's almost 20 million businesses listed in here. We won't be able to go over consumer lifestyles or new movers and homeowners, but with that, you can get some customer information. You can hone in on specific neighborhoods in your town, Portland, Falmouth. You can also make mailing lists that give you Excel sheets with the name of individuals that can be your customers, along with their street addresses, sometimes telephone numbers, sometimes email addresses. But for folks that want to do marketing through mail, it's very easy to download an Excel sheet and just plug it right into a mailing label program. Today, we're going to go into US businesses. And here you're going to see facts that businesses report to the Department of Labor, facts that they list on their taxes that get plugged into the census.gov site, and maybe a few different other sources where they're pulling facts about businesses. I just want to give you a sense of what kind of information is listed in here. And to do that, I'm going to bring up a local company, Fox Family Chips. It's fun to look at a large company like LL Bean. They're listed as more than one entity when you're looking in a directory like this. But this Fox Family Chips, I think, somewhat similar to what Carla's opening up. They're not health-based, but they're snack food.
And that's the one, you probably have seen them in the grocery store. They have the silver bag with the red labeling.
Yeah, and they usually have their own stand outside of the chip section. And I'm not sure how they negotiated with Hannaford, but they are highly visible in a lot of the local grocery markets. Here we're just seeing the address, the telephone number, and the name of the owner. As we go deeper into their file, though, this is the kind of information that's going to be relevant for Carla to analyze when she's looking at her competition. When she's looking at her competition, she's going to see a lot of information that's going to be relevant to her own business. For here, they're looking at their types of service as potato chips, confectionery, merchant wholesalers. Confectionery merchant wholesaler is a pretty abstract one. It's possible that Carla's snack could be listed under there, but there's a good chance that's not a relevant category. We're getting a little bit of a peek at sales volume, but further down, you're going to see more detailed information about expenditures and revenue.
And
If
I
you
think
hit look,
it's gonna interject there that
yep.
the expense information is really interesting because it would help somebody understand what kind of expenses they're likely to have in this business. And there's also, because we also saw their sales volume at 3.8 million, and we saw there's these individual expense lines we're also seeing, and it's a range, it's not exact, but it tells us what percentage of their sales these expenses are. So that's something that would help someone do their financial projections if they understood, a company is spending a certain amount of money on these types of expenses. So really helpful.
Yeah, and as Tina's pointing out, I went further down the page, and we do see some of those categories and the amount that was expended on in these categories for 1 year. And we get a quick glance at from year to year what kind of expenditure and revenue they've reported. It's funny, I thought last time we were in here, oh yeah, this was the one where they've really started off with a big bang and then over a few years scaled it down. It might be interesting to even call them up and get a sense of what happened with them. I don't want to spend a lot of time just looking at this one company. I want to kick out of here in just a moment where we can bring up at least a dozen companies and do a quick comparison. But again, just giving you a sense of the kind of information in this.
Oh, and Myles, you had mentioned the other day that the additional company news section gets you into some really relevant articles about where this company has been mentioned, and that's another way to get at that data.
Thanks for pointing that out. I did follow one of these links this week, and it was great because it led me to a Portland Press Herald article I hadn't read, and it was talking about using seaweed as an element in thread and fabric, and they're starting to make beautiful sweaters made out of seaweed in Scandinavia. So I thought, that's funny. I wonder if a Maine entrepreneur will pick up on this anytime soon. So again, another access for more research within data base reference solutions here. And normally you can also see what job openings are available, and that can be kind of interesting. Depending on the size of your business, you can get a sense of what their positions are within their staff. For Carla, this is a smaller business, so we're not going to really see that as relevant. But let me kick out of here, and we'll go into the advanced search. And we're going to have to be a little quick about this today because we are running out of time. But I want to point out of all of these filters that you can use creatively to make sure that you're getting information that's relevant to you, the one filter that you will always be using is this keyword SIC-NAICS. Most of what we're doing, we're going to be able to do simply by putting a keyword like we would in any search, like a Google or a Gale Power search. But I just want to point out SIC stands for Standard Industry Code. NAICS stands for North American Industry Classification System. These can be helpful to play with, but for now, we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to go with search words, regular words that we're all familiar with. And I'm a little nervous about doing a competition report because I'm sure that the distribution is one that looks a lot easier. but we're gonna try a competition one here. And I'm just trying to get back to one that was helpful for us yesterday. We're going to look at health food. And once we plug in the search, we can look at the categories that they've offered to us. And we're going to go with health food product manufacturers. And why don't we stick with that one? We're going to hit update count. And right now we're looking at about 850 businesses listed nationwide in this category. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to stipulate that we're only looking at Northern New England companies. And I'm going to do that by just typing in the states here and looking at their suggestions and plugging those in. There's always 2 or 3 different ways to do the same task. I found that this is the one that I feel most comfortable with. I say that and I can't plug the things I want into. Get in there. City, state. Let me try that a different way real quick. Okay, we've stipulated Northern New England, and we've stipulated we're looking for health food manufacturers. Always remember to hit update count. It's the only way that it's going to actually register the changes that you've made. Now we're looking at about 23 companies. And let's take a quick look at who we're looking at. Already I can see some of these are not relevant. The Vitamin Shop are not relevant. Let me get back out.
Maine Coast Sea Vegetables is listed. That is a direct competitor.
Yep.
And maybe
Since you say that, I'll click the ones that we do want to keep rather than get rid of the ones we don't. Now I'm going to download this report real quick and we'll bring it up and just take a quick look at what it gives us. Here we are seeing listed the companies that we did want to check out in more close detail. It gives the contact information, where they're located: Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. It gives their primary kinds of businesses, but then it also points out some secondary kinds of businesses. They are all listed as primarily health food product manufacturers, but one sells wine. One also supplements their business by doing catering. As you go deeper into these, you're going to be able to do some comparison about their expenditures that we were talking about. And it's a lot easier to use these when you clean them up for your use. But let me just get us into this section where we can see easily a comparison of cost and profit coming in. So right here, we're looking at where Carla can get a sense of where similar businesses have been spending in advertising and the computer costs, maybe the insurance. With a food business, you do want to make sure that you're following government guidelines and protocols. Office supplies seem to be minimal for a lot of the businesses like Carla's. And I think that staff is often one of the highest costs. And that's something that if Carla is looking to do some hiring beyond herself, she might really want to make a risk assessment and see what is worthwhile and what sort of a rabbit hole that could lead to the loss of income. Tina, before I X out of this and come back to a shared environment with all of us seeing each other, is there anything on these Excel reports that you'd like to point out?
I think it's just something that it's going to be unique to everybody. But I think what strikes me about these reports is the fact that you can get this information at all I'm still a little confused about where it comes from. I do know when I owned a business, I for some reason got on a list where I was required to report data quarterly, and it was a lot of data that I was sharing, I believe, with the Federal Department of Labor, but they were asking for all kinds of information about my business, and I remember feeling kind of irritated that I had to do this. But I think certain businesses are selected to give additional information, and that's what ends up in these databases, because tax returns are not public unless it's a corporation. So, but to me, it's great that you can find this because it can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think where the tax information is relevant, though, is the aggregated industry reports.
Yeah. So we just have 4 minutes left, and I just want to see if there's any questions. I think what's amazing to me as an advisor is after looking at these resources, I didn't realize how detailed they were and how much information you could actually get. It goes way beyond a Google search. And if you have questions, you can certainly contact Myles directly, and we're going to be sending you the slides so that you have his info. And I'm happy to talk to you as well. Any of our business advisors are. So does anybody have any questions before we shut it down? Or would you like Myles to do a quick search for you or show you anything on any of these databases? Is there a way to get a comprehensive list of the sites that were used today? In this recording, you'll see it through the recording, and also you can certainly contact Myles, but you can also go to the Portland Public Library website and just look through there. There was a lot of information. Yes, there's a lot of information there, and I think probably the best strategy would be if you have a specific search that you want to do, then contact Myles, and he can get you set up. Would you say that's right, Myles, or would you prefer people go to the Portland Public Library website?
No, please do, and please contact me at the either by email, or here's my direct telephone line, and you can leave a voicemail if I'm not at my desk, but robert@portlib.org. And if you lose this information, just call the reference desk or any library number, and they'll pipe you down
Okay.
to my office.
We also had a question, how can we access reference solutions if we're not members of the library? And I think probably the answer to that is you can't. You'd have to become a member, either get your library card from the Portland Public Library or pay your $20 to become a member.
Yeah, it's worth checking with your local library. Reference Solutions is often used. I know Lewiston, Bangor, they have it. But if you can't access it locally, reach out to us or reach out to the state of Maine Library too, because we're always wanting to help folks, even if you're outside of the towns that we're directly serving. Just a $20 fee, though, for an annual card if you'd like.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions, but it's a tremendous resource, and we really do encourage you to do the market research that you need to do before you start or grow your business. And again, we're happy to help you out.